the only participation I could have in that battle at this point was to buy the guys in the truck with me as many moments as I could so that they could come up with a better plan, because the only plan I could think of was to pull my pistol and charge that nearest group of fighters.
Take us back to that day, that fateful day.
So it was a fob Ghazi. It was a Polish fob in 2013. Our camp had been selected by the Taliban to have a complex attack on it, so not a harassment. And their take was we were intending to close the camp, and they found out, and so they wanted to launch a spectacular attack and hopefully overrun the camp and destroy it, which is what the enemy's goals and intent always are. But if they failed, they knew we were going to close the camp and leave, so the messaging to the Afghan people would be that they had driven the Americans from that region. So they initiated that attack by getting 3 truck bombs, VBIDs, that were in the 3,000 to 5,000 pound range, and then 1 truck bomb that was in the 20,000 pound range. And honestly, it was a great plan. It was really well executed, and just things went wrong for them at key times and key places. The 20,000 pound bomb, which would have absolutely just erased the camp, the fuel pump went out on it, and it broke down a mile from our camp. Afghani police officer saw one of the trucks and just had a premonition that it was a bomb and shot it with a rocket launcher and destroyed it, ultimately sacrificing himself and his checkpoint. But he just knew it was a bomb. It didn't investigate the truck and engaged it with an RPG. And so that left the Taliban with two big bombs, which brings me into my part of the story, is a cement truck with about 5,000 pounds of explosives rammed the wall near me, and 15 Afghan assaulters sprinted through that blast site. And didn't know that. I knew that whatever the enemy's doing, you try to do the opposite, it seems. So if they're going one way, I would try and stop them. So me and 4 other Green Berets drove down to get involved in that fight. Didn't know that they had moved so quickly. So we pulled up at an intersection leading out on this airfield, and I was intending to get out of the vehicle. I was a sniper. I had a sniper rifle. So my participation in that battle, I thought, would be best served if I got some form of vantage overlooking the airfield in the city, because I could see that they had a house that they were occupying, and they were shooting machine guns and rockets through the breach into the camp. And I thought that was the enemy and intended to engage them with that rifle. Was unaware that they had moved so quickly and sprinted through that breach toward us. So as we pulled up into that intersection, we pulled right in the middle of them kind of doing a school circle. This was their dispersion point. So they'd already covered the airfield, and we're going to go to their individual targets. And here we come and parked right in the middle of them. So we looked at them, they looked at us. We found out later the reason the fight was so intense was that we were on the only road that gave them access to the interior of the camp. So they had to get past us. But as we pulled up, they instantly engaged us. And like I said, everyone was almost instantly hit. I had my door open because I was intending to kind of get out of the vehicle and climb this wall. So I presented my sniper rifle to the enemy, pulled the trigger once, and then my rifle jammed. Which is same. I had the same understanding of the situation. I was super bummed because I was like, I've done all this training, I've got this $10,000 rifle, and my story ends here.
Wow.
So at that point, I was staring at about 7 fighters actively firing into the door of my truck, and I had a broken rifle, and to me, I thought that was the end. I'm looking at these muzzles. I remember vividly the muzzle blast, and each time one went off, I was wondering why I couldn't feel the bullets hitting me, because we're so close. I couldn't understand how they could miss. And so I thought the only participation I could have in that battle at this point was to buy the guys in the truck with me as many moments as I could, so that they could come up with a better plan, because the only plan I could think of was to pull my pistol and charge that nearest group of fighters. So I did. I pulled my pistol almost reflectively. I don't remember intending to pull my pistol. It was just, it appeared. And I started, firing and advancing on the enemy. And I was hitting them, and they were not hitting me for one reason or the other. And eventually I got right in the middle of them. Started at probably at 12 to 15 meters, and then ended up basically at this range. And to the point where they were having to shoot at each other to shoot at me. And I was like, well, I didn't think I was going to make it this far. And I was like, now I have another problem. I've lived so long, I'm running out of pistol ammunition. And so I had a knife and a hand grenade. And so I pulled out my hand grenade, threw it to the nearest fighter, which, luckily if you're wearing a suicide vest and somebody throws you a hand grenade, you try to get away from it. So everybody quit shooting at me. They ran for cover, except for one fighter. And it was the actual fighter I hit the grenade with. He didn't try to avoid it. He just laid right there on it, picked me up under his sights and fired his rifle at me until the grenade detonated. And the whole time that was happening, I just started repairing my rifle, and it was jammed. So I was clearing the jam and getting a fresh magazine in. And I just remember time kind of slowed down. And as I was clearing the jammed brass and inserting a fresh magazine, I remember the rounds were coming through and going around me. And I was right by this empty water tank, and I could hear the tick of the rounds as they came through the plastic. And then a little tiny piece of white plastic would kind of come out. And it was just kind of snowing around me as I was kind of, in my mind, moving in slow motion, getting my rifle back up about the time the grenade detonated. And, I peek around, and obviously he's been destroyed with this hand grenade. And I'm trying to figure out where his friends went. And I start hearing this snap thump of rifle rounds landing to my rear. And as I turn around, I see an enemy fighter. He's 100 meters away. I know it's 100 meters because this is on base, and he's laying on the edge of the airfield. It's where we do sprints in the mornings. So I've literally, where I'm fighting, I've touched that wall and sprinted to the airfield and back. Wow. So my rifle is precisely zeroed at 100 meters. So I held center on him, pulled the trigger, and detonated his suicide vest, which, scared me. You're just not, you don't expect people to explode when you shoot them. And so it actually took me off guard, and I was trying to figure out what happened to him, because I was like, my gun doesn't work like this. Yeah. And it's when, that's when I started figuring out that I had just, hit a fighter wearing a suicide vest and detonated it. And then I was like, well, now what? I couldn't go back around the corner to where my friends were, and I could hear them, Chief's hit, Matt's hit, I'm hit. And I was like, well, I have to at least stay here, because if I go back around the corner, these guys will be right back on top of us. And obviously they have suicide vests. So only, they don't even have to be effective. They just have to get close to us to detonate. So I opted to stay around this corner, and I'm kind of in the open, and I didn't know where they were going. I knew I couldn't stop them by myself, but I could keep them busy. So I opted to move down to where they had run off to. I'm going to kind of stay engaged and wait for reinforcements to get with me. And at least I'll keep it where they can't just willy-nilly run around the camp. I get down this little lane about halfway to it, and they all hang muzzles from around the corners and trucks and things, and they start shooting at me. And I'm, on the move, doing the best I can. Sniper rifles are good at some things, but shooting while walking at close targets is not what they're built for. So I didn't have the optimal system. But I'm doing my best, and I'm keeping them from being able to concentrate and aim at me. And I'm better at this than they are, and so I'm getting some hits. And then my rifle runs out of ammunition again. I just fixed it, and then it only holds 20 rounds, so I'm empty now. And I know my pistols, in my mind, it had 2 or 3 rounds in it, which I ended up emptying it later, which was true. But no more hand grenades. And I could see all these guys to my front, and I knew that the only way I was going to survive that was I would have to get my rifle back up. So dumped the magazine and reached for a fresh one. As soon as I dumped the magazine, the nearest fighter to me, screamed Al Akbar, threw his rifle into his sling, so it kind of flipped behind him, and then he just started sprinting toward me. Unfortunately for him, I've practiced reloading more than he's practiced sprinting. So he got about half the distance to me before I got my rifle back up, engaged him, and detonated his vest. But that was probably around the 10 to 12 meter mark, and it blew me down. I don't think I was unconscious. I think I was just kind of, TKO'd for a boxing term. But I was definitely bewildered about why there were so many rocks in my bed. I remember being extremely comfortable, but I was trying to figure out why everything was on fire and why people were shooting everywhere.